Today we're taking a look at a new community broadcast that's just been released by DICE, and in it contains some pretty significant changes for Battlefield V coming up in 5.2 patch, which will be released in December next month. And when I say significant, I really do believe that. I think some of the things in here will change the meta of the game quite considerably. Some people will love it, some people will hate it. It's going to be a very divisive update. Just a quick disclaimer as well, because I'm part of Game Changers, I was shown some of this information yesterday. So then, what's in 5.2? Well, community games are coming, so that's just like your private games. They don't really go into the functionality, to be honest, but at least we'll be able to make our own games now. More details will be released on that soon. The lunge mine, apparently it's affectionately known as the Boom Broom internally. We saw it in the trailer, and it's nowhere to be seen in the game yet or in Tides of War, and they showed a little video of it here, and it disables that Sherman with one hit and knocks you back, does a bit of damage, but they said that it's not quite where they want it to be in terms of quality, and as you can see, sometimes it just doesn't work, it doesn't explode, so it needs a bit more time. They're going to hold back the Boom Broom for a little longer. The Fliegerfaust. Okay, so we've all had good fun with the Fliegerfaust, haven't we? Now, it's going to be nerfed a bit in 5.2. They say that the experience will still be basically the same if a pilot is flying directly head-on towards you, and it will deal a ton of damage. But in those situations where the plane is flying across your vision and maybe a bit further away from you, you'll need to be a bit more deliberate and accurate with where you're shooting and predicting where those rockets are going to go. So a bit of a nerf to the Fliegerfaust. Wake Island, there's a big article next week, which I think is going to show some gameplay and stuff, so I've got that to look forward to. That's out in December, and it will have Breakthrough Conquest, Squad Conquest, and Team Deathmatch. They say that they're also improving the sandbox experience. I think we can all agree that the two Pacific maps so far did feel a bit more classic Battlefield in terms of the layouts of them, how they played, the amount of toys and vehicles, and just ways you can have fun and mess around, and that's the kind of stuff that they want to inject into the game more, and we'll be seeing that on older maps as well as new. Now then, that's the fluff out of the way. The next stuff is... this is the meat on the bone. This is the really important stuff. It's subjective, but I don't agree with some of this as a Battlefield player, someone who plays BF5 regularly and enjoys the gameplay. So let's take a look. So the first thing we've got are these new soldier acquisition icons. And DICE say that they're doing this to try and improve player awareness and making it easier to identify the difference between friendly and enemy soldiers. As you can see in the clip here, this is how it's going to work by the looks of it. So if you enter within 15 meters of an enemy player and you look at them, they will automatically get this red diamond above their head. And then as you get closer to them, it will detail the player's class. These icons are local only to the player and are not shared across the squad or the team. And I assume that if the player is occluded, as in you can't see them, then this will not pop up. But I vehemently disagree with this. I do not like this one bit, and it reminds me of BF1 in a lot of bad ways. It's a crutch, isn't it? And it's not addressing the real problem of visibility within the game. And this is going to punish those players who like to play stealthy, who like to take advantage of the chaos and blend in, be a bit sneaky, hide in plain sight, that kind of thing. It's reducing the skill gap, and I'm sad that this will make it into the game. Do soldiers need better visibility? Yes. But just automatically putting red dots on their head, it's not a good solution for me, and I think it's watering the game down. But what do you guys think about this down in the comments below? I'm sure some people will like this. On the flip side, yes, it will mean that prone players aren't as effective, and I know that a lot of people don't like the prone meta in BF5. But for me, it's a bad move. And the next topic is damage over range weapon balancing. So the TTK is increasing again, and it's going to take more bullets to kill at longer ranges. The changes will affect SMGs, assault rifles, LMGs, MMGs, SARs, shotguns and pistol carbines, whereas the bolt action carbines, the sniper rifles and the anti-material rifles will stay the same, and there won't be any changes to those weapons at range. And they shared some graphs in the community post as well. Some of them look quite different, some of them are kind of the same. You may not even notice a difference at average engagement ranges, but when I look at some of those graphs, like the MG42 and the really fast firing SMGs, the amount of bullets that it will take to kill people at longer ranges, plus the ability that every class has the option to heal themselves with a pouch, it doesn't make sense to me. And I don't want to go back to potato bullets from BF1. Imagine in BF5 if you shoot someone who's, let's say, 75 to 100 meters away from you with an SMG or with an MG42 8 or 9 times and they don't die. That kind of thing just doesn't feel right to me. But as I said, this is going to be a really divisive update. In the post, they also say that they're treating each weapon differently in terms of how they address their performance at various ranges. So SMGs should be just really good close-up, but pants everywhere else, for example. And they're also making adjustments to recoil to ensure that they're compensating for these changes, and changing some of the rates of fire as well as magazine sizes. They don't go into great detail about that. I'm sure they will when we get the full patch notes, whenever that may be. But ultimately they say they're working to ensure that class balance is maintained across the board and there are no do or die choices, no absolute best class or absolute best weapons in the game. And also they said that they will be looking at feedback and monitoring this, looking at the data and seeing how the community reacts in general. Again, for me personally, I don't think this is needed. I don't think anyone has complained about the time to kill in the game for a long time. Not what I've seen on social media or YouTube comments. When the Pacific came out, everyone seemed to be enjoying it. I didn't see anyone say, oh, I'm dying too quick, or oh, I can kill people too easily. And I felt like the sentiment in the community was, hey, the game's on the right path now, we just want more maps, we want more of these Battlefield sandbox style experiences. And instead they've made a couple of changes to the game here that will definitely make it more accessible. Yes, it will be easier for new players, but for the core, the fans of the game, I personally didn't want this and I didn't see people screaming out for it. Of course, when these changes land in December, I'll still be playing the game. I'm not just going to quit playing the game. Some people may not even notice a difference, but for me personally, I like that my guns feel lethal at longer ranges, and I like that I can be sneaky and not have a red dot on my head unless I've been spotted. It's what makes the game interesting for me and what makes the game stand out from the more recent Battlefield titles. And to me, those two things in particular, I just don't feel like they were necessary. But what do you think? And then finally, they are making some spotting changes. So the flare gun is getting a bit of a nerf. I think it's fair to say that if you played Breakthrough in particular, there were flares in the sky all the time and you were just on the minimap non-stop. So there's a bit of a nerf to flares. Also this, you'll now know when you're spotted. I quite like this, and this is something that I've wanted in the game for a while. If you're spotted, if you look at the minimap in the bottom left, it will actually have a yellow outline around it and it will say you are spotted. And of course there are ways to counter that, like shooting down a flare, getting in smoke, or just backing off and waiting until you're not spotted anymore. Now I personally really like this change because it's not obvious, it's not an easy thing to see. You've got to pay attention to your minimap. It adds a bit of real-time context, and it's informing attentive players without giving them too much information. It will be interesting to see how that affects gameplay overall. Tanks are getting a bit of a buff too, and what this means is that it's going to be harder to get big hits against tanks if you're using Panzerfaust, and you'll almost have to get the perfect angle for front and sides to do maximum damage. Normal hits outside that perfect angle will just do regular damage, and then ricochet hits will do basically none. So it's going to be much harder as an assault player to hit a tank at a perfect angle and do damage. So you've got to be square onto the sides, the back or the front if you want to be doing the most damage. But they do vary depending on which tank you're engaging. So because of this, tanks will be buffed a bit, and hopefully that incentivizes them to play the objective a bit more, push forward with the team and be a tank rather than just a guy who sits on the edge of the cap zone and never moves the entire round. And then there's just another bit about sandbox stuff at the end. And there's a sandbox initiative coming to the game, attempting to inject a bit more fun into the game, I suppose. But that's all for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. How do you feel about some of these changes? I will link the actual post down below so you can see the exact wording of it and read it for yourself. I have just live commed this. I'm away on holiday at the moment and I didn't really have time to write a script, so these are really just my first raw, candid initial impressions of it. but your thoughts down below do it. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like. If you didn't, a dislike, subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.